Hey folks, it's Bill Harrison. I'm here with a little update on all the changes that went into Emma during December of 2024. Despite the holidays and the shortened season, we did make 4 production releases to Emma, and there were 12 new features, feature changes, enhancements, fixes that were released. If you want to see all the details for those, there is a blog post on our website. We'll link to it in the video description below. There's also a much more detailed description of the changes that are made in the Emma member website for customers. But today I want to just focus on one aspect of what was changed over the last month, and that is a change we made to the changelog. And I thought it would be a good chance just to talk about the changelog in general and look at the feature, maybe do a quick refresher for people who aren't familiar with the changelog or don't use it very much. So let's take a look at our Emma system, our demo system here, and I'll show you a little bit about what the change was that we made. I'm looking at the changelog here, and I got there, of course, by going to admin changelog as my selection. And as you probably know, the changelog logs as many or all edits or changes made to the Emma system. You can end up with hundreds of thousands of records in the changelog if your system is being used regularly and extensively. And you have control over what fields are being logged in the changelog by using this gear icon right up here in the upper right-hand corner. If I click on that, you'll see it gives me a choice of fields that I can select to start recording in the changelog. Right now, here are my fields: address, phone number, and so forth. But if I click this little down arrow, I can pick any field that's inside of the Emma system that's associated with a person, a grievance, personnel. These are different modules that we track changes on. And I can add or subtract these fields, save changes, and things will happen. The change that we made specifically to Emma is that we made it mandatory that all changes to a person type for a person record are logged in the changelog regardless of the settings that are in Emma. So I'll give you an example. Let's take a look here at the first record. We'll open this up in a new tab of Courtney Abernathy. Courtney right now has a person type of never affiliated. If we edit her record and let's say we scroll down here and change her person type to, let's say new hire, and we save that record, now let's go back over to the changelog. You'll notice that there's a new record that was entered that I made a change from never affiliated to new hire. So that makes sense, right? We're checking and we're tracking that change to person type. If I go up here to my gear icon, you'll notice that person type is one of my fields that I'm tracking in the changelog. But let's say I take that out. Let's take person type out and save changes. Now let's go back to Courtney again and let's edit her one more time. And let's go down and change her person type from new hire to never affiliated, okay? And we'll save her person type as never affiliated. We'll go back to the changelog and notice that that entry is here again, even though we took member person type out of the fields that are logged by the changelog. Now, you might be asking, why would we do that? Well, it turns out we found out kind of the hard way that some customers had taken person type out of the changelog, and without the changelog registering those changes, it was causing some significant issues with reporting. We could go into all the gory details, but suffice to say that it was a problem and one that really is not something we wanted to have in the system. So rather than policing this or asking everybody to change it, we simply made it a mandatory feature. Any person type change to any person in the system will now be logged as part of the changelog on an ongoing basis. Okay, I hope that's helpful as a little bit of information about the specific change that we made. But while we're here, why don't we look at a couple of other changelog features that you may or may not be aware of so you can learn a little bit more about the changelog. At the top, we have the ability to filter the changelog by collection. As I mentioned earlier, the changelog tracks changes in people, in grievances, in personnel, in documents, and in committees if you use the committee module. So there's a lot of changes and a lot of information that can be tracked here. Obviously, people is the primary module that people use with the changelog, and we have the ability to filter this display by date, by the field that was modified. And this is going to be very, very handy to look at things. For example, let's say you wanted to know everybody whose voter registration status has changed in the last month or something like that. You can simply select the people collection, go over here to the changed field, type in registered voter, and now Emma is going to show you all of the members, all the people in your people collection whose registered voter field changed. In this case, we had one that went from yes to no and another one that went from blank to yes. And those changes are logged here. Can be a really handy thing to do. You could further filter this by user. So if you really wanted to know, okay, who has been making these changes or what user changed these particular settings, you can filter that as well. Likewise, you can specify a modified from and to date and narrow down the range of when these changes were made, which is very simple. Another thing that's handy is that you can review and actually sort of make sure that all of these changes were made correctly by using these buttons to the side of each change. The thumbs up button is simply an acknowledgement that this change was okay. Some of our customers like to review every change that was made in their Emma system, or at least every change that was made to certain fields and certain people records. We want to make sure data doesn't get corrupted or that somebody doesn't accidentally change something that they shouldn't. So one way to do that is to filter the fields we want and then come in here and simply review these and select them as reviewed. If they're not reviewed or if there's a question, we also have the possibility of using this flag status to put a note in. So for example, let's say, Susan on our staff made a change to a record and I was concerned about that change. I might select her from the user list and then put a note in here that says something like, can you explain to me why you made this change? Or can you please review this and make sure it's correct? This is a way we can communicate inside the system and make sure that data changes are coordinated and that people are doing them correctly. Okay, so that's a nice feature that many of our locals use as well. And finally, we have a revert capability. So if a reviewer is looking at this data and realizes, uh-oh, that was a mistake, we didn't want to change this registered voter status to yes, we can simply click this revert button and that'll automatically change that value back to what it was before. So some really nice features in the change log. Also, you'll probably notice that there is the ability to export. I can export individual records. I can export all of the records from a display. I also have the ability to flag or revert large numbers of records. I can simply clear these. And if I wanted to, for example, let's go back to our original display. If I wanted to revert this entire screen, for example, I could select all of those records and click the revert button and it would revert those changes for everybody. So a quick overview about the change log, a little bit about why we decided to make the person type a mandatory field. So don't worry if person type is not in your selected change log fields here, it's going to get logged anyway. I hope you find that helpful. As always, if you guys have questions about the change log or any other aspect of Emma, please feel free to reach out. I would be more than happy to answer any questions you have. Thanks so much.